Hello, I'm Matt from Battersea Audio, and this is Shaper Pro. Shaper Pro is the next generation of our original Shaper step tool plugin, rebuilt from the ground up to give you access to faster, more powerful and more expressive ways to instantly transform any piece of audio into rhythmic electronica. The goal with Shaper Pro wasn't just to add a few more features, it was to make rhythmic sound design feel fast enough that you actually want to experiment. As a result, you can quickly discover rhythms and textures that would have taken a long time to create with traditional automation alone. I'll take you through the whole plugin, explain how everything works, and give you some examples of how some of the patches sound so that you can get a head start with Shaper Pro. Okay, so I'll show you the interface for Shaper Pro. For those of you who are not familiar with the original Shaper Step Tool plugin, I'll give you a quick introduction to what the premise is. The whole plugin revolves around these adjustable envelope/shaper modules that you see in the middle of the screen. Each one of these individual grid positions at the bottom contains its own shape. You can adjust them one at a time, or you can select a range at the bottom using Shift and click, and then it will control them all at once. You can also combine positions together. So if I wanted to make something which was like that, like that, like that, then suddenly all of these three shapes at the beginning have their a combined shape between them. I've just put in some basic synths and samples just to kind of show you what's going on. So I'll show you what this sounds like at the moment with that change we've just made. So that's just a really basic volume rhythm using the shaper just to explain to you how it works. And if you want to ungroup sequence positions at the bottom here, you just right click and then they separate again. You can also select individual sequence positions and then use Command if you're on a Mac or Control on Windows and then click to select multiple at once. And then you can again just edit ones in a particular sequence that you like. One other thing to mention with these bottom sequencer grid positions is that you can use these adjustable sliders to make effects become more intense over time or decrease over time. So when you have a shaper module active, you are able to assign parameters to it. So at the moment, I can right click anything and assign it as a modulator to one of the layers on the left hand side. So I want to add a filter. And this one by default is assigned to the cutoff. So I'm just going to deactivate this volume module. Let's make a more interesting rhythm at the bottom here. Shaper Pro has got so many different effects built into it. We've got pan, phaser, flanger, chorus, distortion, width, bit crusher, reverb. There's a few pitch and time based effects. There's some experimental effects such as particle, flux and freeze. And then there's also this trigger which can be used to restart the sequence of another FX module. You can layer up to 8 of these effects on top of each other. So for this patch, you can see that it's got 5 different FX modules stacked on top of each other. It's got a reverb and a delay. The reverb stays consistent, the delay rises up over time. But on top of that, we've got a phaser and 2 volume modules and makes it sound really rhythmic. So if I actually just bypass Shaper Pro for a moment, what you can actually do is have one module be followed by several others. So if I had a pan module here, for example, I can just have it follow this module's enveloper by just clicking here and going to follow volume. Now this pan module will follow the shaper module on this volume. Something else I just want to point out is that you can have the viewfinder in the middle always focus on the shaper sequence position, which is currently playing, using this focus button in the top right hand side. To change the size of the grid, you can use these controls on the bottom left hand side. So if I wanted to make this just a single shape, for example, I can do it with this grid size drop down and then just have a slow rising position instead. And so you can see how you can start to develop quite intricate patterns and interesting effects by just throwing a few of these different FX modules on top of each other. Just to go through some of the other controls, just so you're fully aware, we've got swing down here. So if you apply a little bit of swing like that, in the bottom right hand side we've got sidechain, which allows you to trigger an effect within Shaper using an external source, like an audio source. You can also have the effects of Shaper Pro only apply to certain EQ bands. So, for example, if I wanted to preserve the low end on this sound, I can just turn it off here, and then it will only apply to the mid and the high signal. So there's two ways that Shaper Pro will work. The first is that it will just follow your DAW's grid position to decipher where it is in the sequence. Or if you click this restart grid on play button, then it will only start the sequence wherever you press play on the timeline. However, if you've got restart grid on play turned on, it will start all of the sequences wherever you press play on the timeline. So I think there's a place for both. So we included both of those in the plugin. When you're assigning a modulator to a FX module, it's worth mentioning that you can do it in positive, negative, or both directions. So at the moment, I've got this pan module loaded up, and when I have both directions selected, it's just going to oscillate around that central position on the pan. Let's just add a few more modules and see if we can get this patch a bit more interesting. There you go, so just added a few more effects onto this one. So we've got that original pan module here, but I've now got a rising filter. I've got a kind of intricate stuttering volume, and I've got a resonator right at the end. And so together, they just make the sound pretty rhythmic and pretty interesting. So I'll now just talk you through a few more of the controls of Shaper. Obviously, it's been designed to use this sequencer system at the bottom. However, if you want to use it as just a single module, you can add additional nodes using the add point here system to create kind of complicated individual shapes. You can also copy shapes, you can save positions or shapes that you really like, and you can also save whole modules. So for example, if you've created a filter module that you really like, you can actually just save the whole module and then you can access it whenever you need it. For a deep dive on the controls of Shaper Pro, if you feel that there's anything that you don't quite fully understand, then you can open the manual using this top right hand corner. If you want to buy Shaper Pro, you can look on our website, which is batterseaaudio.com.